So starting the test drive in this Tacoma here, even in the eco mode, pickup is pretty good. And it's an interesting sound. I've driven a few Tacomas before, but you're used to having either that 4-cylinder, or most of the Tacomas I've been in, the older ones had the bigger V6 in them. And it's just an interesting sound you get having a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder in a pickup truck that sits pretty aggressively. It's not like a Maverick or something like that. This Tacoma is the off-road version, so it feels weird with this powertrain. Now, it doesn't drive bad or anything like that. It's just when you're sitting in something that's almost feels like a lifted truck, just having a turbo 4 is just an interesting setup. Now, coming down this rough patch of road, this is what really dictates how suspension is going to be. And this one here is a bit on the bouncy side, specifically with all the off-road oriented suspension parts. But I'm gonna put it into the normal drive mode now. Let's see if that changes anything. So yeah, the normal mode drives better, much better in city driving. Just coming out of a stop, getting a little acceleration going. Feels more normal there. But again, just with the off-road setup here, this is it's not uncomfortable, but it's a very lively experience. Let me put it that way. I'm feeling every bump I go over here. The funny thing is, I just drove a Land Cruiser 1958 that had off-road tires, and it drove much smoother than this. Now I want to lean the seat back because I feel like I'm getting some of the headliner here. Hopefully that helps. But it's interesting how this truck is shaped. The hood doesn't necessarily slope down. It's lower than my field of vision, but I can still see it go straight out and then go down. So it's not like it's at an angle or anything like that. So an interesting choice for that. Again, not bothersome, but it does kind of hinder your visibility, especially for taller people, because the Tacoma is not made for... There's not a lot of space in here, let me put it that way. So if I raise my seat up some, my head will basically be in the ceiling. I'll be able to see better, but I'll just feel more cramped. And then being down here, I have more space to kind of move about, but I'm almost having to like look up and out over the steering wheel here. And it's not a bad thing. You can adjust it the way that you would want. It's just something I noticed. Now, the overall driving experience itself, this truck is easy to get used to. I feel like the steering is less... This feels like a Tacoma, but it also feels more refined. So even with the steering, I'm used to a more almost boxy steering in the Tacomas. But this has that same feel, but it's almost a little less strained, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel as difficult to turn this thing, even though this is an off-road pickup truck. Now, fuel economy numbers are good because with a pickup truck, a lot of people, even in the older Tacomas, you had the smaller engine choices. Well, you had the smaller 4-cylinder, and then you had the bigger V6. The bigger V6 was relatively thirsty because it was a 4-liter, but the smaller 4-cylinder, just to get anything going in that thing, you had to floor it anyway, so it wasn't even worth it. And here you kind of have that sweet spot where you have the pickup of a V6 when you need it, but you get the fuel economy of a 4-cylinder. Now, I'm not seeing a button for the auto stop, and that's interesting. So Toyota was one of the last manufacturers that I can remember actually implementing auto stop. them and Nissan. And the pickup truck here still doesn't seem to have that, but you're still getting pretty good fuel economy, which is impressive. Now you get a truck, or really any Toyota vehicle with iForce Max, and then having that auto brake hold kind of helps. Let's put it into sport mode. Here we go. So got up to speed very nicely. Very nicely. And now we're going to test out the safety suite here. So we had the adaptive cruise, the lane centering, all of that working. And a great system in my opinion. And overall, I can hear the tires a bit, but the actual ride quality is, again, a tad bouncy, but very comfortable coming down this stretch of the interstate. I do want to give one more thanks to John Roberts Toyota for allowing me to review this Tacoma today. I'll leave a link below in the description. But if you're looking to find the best price on something closer to home, click on that second link down below. It takes just a minute to fill out your information, and I'll make sure the local dealers are fighting to get you the best price on whatever new vehicle you might be interested in. But my final thoughts on this Tacoma, although it's mid-40s, when you look at it, it still has so much to offer with the adaptive cruise, the lane centering. The four-wheel drive system is phenomenal, just how adjustable that is. And then just having the LED headlamps, the LED tail lights. And just something that, even though it has a 4-cylinder, is pretty capable. Comparing it to the Colorado, the Ranger, even the Frontier, I mean, everyone has their own preferences. I think the only truck you can really get that doesn't have a turbo 4-cylinder in it now is the Frontier, which has that bigger 3.8 V6, which I really like. But for the most part, turbo 4-cylinders is just the way of the future for these small trucks especially, and probably for the bigger trucks after a while as well. But still, the power is great, and most of the time, for the majority of people, you're not going to be out here towing large boats and things of that nature, and you really want something that's more fuel efficient when you're not towing, but when you do need to tow, you have that capability. And I mean, it's quick. It is quick. But with all that being said, this is going to bring me to the end of my review of this 2025 Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road.